The views and opinions expressed in these historical letters that may contain vernacular used in the World War II era, the post-war era, and the Cold War era do not reflect the views and opinions of any of the individuals involved with this project, including, but not limited to, the podcast's creators. Morning, Jamie.
Good morning, Allison.
How are you doing this morning?
I got my coffee.
Same. Oh my gosh, Jamie, I'm just like bursting with excitement for today's letters. bursting with excitement.
You're not bursting with excitement every single time, though.
You know what? I love all these stories, like just having all this content. I know what a treasure it is to have this kind of content about one's family. You know, it's extremely rare to have this level of detail. But sometimes there's just letters that I remember when I read them the first time, I like stopped what I was doing. I was laughing so much. In this case, one of the two letters, the first of the two, we have two letters today. I loved it so much. And this was before the podcast even started, before it was conceived. I just knew I needed to share this letter with somebody. So I went to my two friends, shout out to Andrew and Aaron. I went over to them. I said, hey, it was the summer. I'm like, would you like to go over to Cold Stone Creamery? And I'm bringing this letter with me. So we went to literally an ice cream shop. Okay. And there I am holding this old letter. And I read out the first portion of this, which for today's listeners, that's going to be the first two parts of this letter. And they're just laughing with me. They love it too. I'm like, this is so great. This is so amazing. I'm like, somehow I have to share this content with the world. Like, it's too good to just have unto myself, because I recognize like people outside the family were enjoying it as well. And that was like the test run, essentially. And
it was this letter.
This letter. And this is like full circle, which is now everybody else gets to hear this. You know, it's been previewed by a number of people because it's just so funny. In the future, there's going to be parts about this letter that you're going to go back to, and you're going to be like, it's let's just say Easter eggs. There's Easter eggs all over this letter. I'm not going to tell you anything that they're related to, but they're there. So it's going to be one of those awesome things. If you're, you know, a book reader and you're reading a series and you're like, oh, that was back there and I didn't realize it at the time.
Yes, because there are times that I'll be reading letters and I'll be like, oh, that's right. I remember she talked about this before. Yeah. And so so it's just really exciting because like this is the letter. So this was the letter that you kind of pulled out of the boxes of letters.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just kind of like randomly, this was the one that you're like, I got to see what this is all about.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Sweetie's going to go to the world. And everybody's got to know what she's talking about. This is a very organized letter. I'm not going to give any spoilers for what happens within. We're going to get started here in a moment. Just a bit of housekeeping as normal. Hey, everybody, if you could please like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube videos. Click that bell icon once subscribed so you get notifications when there's new episodes. We're here at the end of season 2. There's a lot to come still at the end of season 2, season 3 being right around the corner on the first week of February. So if people are wondering, that's when season 3 will start. For our audio listeners, welcome to all of our audio listeners. I see a lot of people listening to some of the older episodes. You know, whenever you get to this point, even if it's months from now, hi, make sure that you click the follow button.
Hi.
Yeah, you know. Right. I'm waving for the audio listeners, and so is Jamie. So you see that. Click download, all those good things. Leave reviews if you can. We appreciate it. It helps those algorithms, you know. The world's driven on tech. So help us out. It'll bring more eyes to the channel because just like with this letter in particular, Sweetie deserves for more people to hear this letter. And that only happens with the help of you. And the help you can give is very much free by just clicking that subscribe button or clicking the follow in the audio channels. And of course, check out the website at www.lovesweetiepodcast.com for all the updates. Jamie, I'm too excited. We just have to get into this first letter here. and we'll get going. County Line Road, Hatboro, Pennsylvania, October 13th, 1950. Dear Mama, Papa, Jean, Sister, Franks, and Florence, I shall have to type fast and furiously if I'm to beat the mailman on his morning route, and I have neglected writing until I'm not sure what I've already told you and what I haven't. It seems that with the changing from daylight saving time to standard, we have lost several hours of daytime, and as a result I'm constantly behind on my work, and what I want to do doesn't seem to get accomplished, and I'm quite sore to think they would shorten the days so much. Of course, we have been doing a lot of antique searching, and that takes much time and energy, and if we had it to start with, money. I have often looked at an antique dealer and her husband at the local sale we attend, and have made some uncomplimentary remarks about a woman in business appearing in public unkempt, and with her husband looking sloppy. I hereby apologize to Mrs. Fryer, for I know my house clothes and appearance suffered terribly while we are out hunting for something good for nothing. The experience is wonderful, the people are interesting and to an extent stimulating, and the sense of achievement in buying something really good for little is a great incentive to trying again and again. I cannot go out hunting here and there, and still stay at home to wash, iron, clean, and mend, and something has to give. However, on the few times that there have been people to drop in, I'm chagrined to be apologetic about appearances, and so this week I made myself do a good job of cleaning. It only lasts until Lew gets home at night, and then, with magazines on the floor, ashtrays to empty, and toys to be picked up, I find I'm going strong each morning to get it back to where it has its picture book look that I love so well to see and enjoy. I often wonder if it is worth it. It got to looking pretty rough, and I said to Lew I couldn't do both. I'd have to start staying home and doing the work, while he went hunting, or else he'd have to start taking a little pains, and working some for me. He has, and so I've noticed something of a lift. Our latest conquests. There have been two to our advantage. One is a 90-year-old spinster and her 81-year-old bachelor brother living together in Doylestown. The lady fell and broke her hip a year ago. She was in the hospital in Norristown for some time, and now is getting around fine, I think, all things considered. The old brother does most of the cooking, cleaning, and housework, as well as look after her some. I felt quite sorry for him, doing his laundry by hand and having things come out as dirty as when he started in on them, and so offered to bring home and do some shirts for him. He took me up on it and gave me 2 shirts that had at one time or another been white. I shuddered at the very thought of putting them in with our clothes, ended up by soaking them in soap and water, washing them, and when that didn't even faze them, I had to re-soak them in Clorox, strong enough to eat the buttons off, and then start in all over again, and wash and rinse them from scratch. I could see where the Clorox ended off, but they at least looked like they were intended to be shirts. I took them up yesterday to them, and because he had to do the cooking, Lew and I agreed that I should take them something to eat. I fixed a casserole of scalloped potatoes, a small meatloaf, and a small dish of carrots, and a small dish of applesauce, first I'd ever had much success with, and it was really fine, and a tomato. They were both pleased to think I'd go to so much effort. I didn't really, as I made our supper at the same time and just added a little extra for them. She had had a birthday, and we took her a small birthday cake. Lewis sang happy birthday for her, and we enjoyed a piece of cake with them, and then to take their supper to them well. We are bosom friends now, which makes me a little sick from my conscience, as they have some choice pieces of antique furniture that we drool over on every visit. I would hate to have them think we were buying our way into getting it, and yet, let's face it, what else have we been trying to do? I've about convinced Lew we'd be big heels to be nice to them, to gain access to the house, and then play upon a friendship to get their treasures. Most of their things are family pieces, and they have placed much too high a value on them for that reason. And they would be indeed lucky to find someone who could afford to pay the prices they think are just. However, if I could get some of those things, I'd never be able to sell them, and for lack of space, would be forced to get rid of our furniture and furnish the house in antiques. Something I'd love to do anyway. if it were not for the money involved.
My goodness. So, first of all, that's so sweet. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I understand that, she kind of does have some feelings because she's looking at this relationship as something that she could forge in order to get the antiques.
Yep.
But even so, like, he's 80 years old
Yep.
and
He's 80.
she's 90 and he's doing all this stuff. And like, oh my
Mm-hmm.
goodness, I can't even imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just these two older individuals living in Doylestown, trying to just make sure everything's taken care of. The sister, not married, in her 90s, the bachelor brother, taking care of the sister. And, this is a great example, just going back, resetting before we even get into the antique discussion about the laundry. This is a great example of show versus tell. She could have just said, wow, his shirts were really dirty and I took some home and I cleaned them for him and he was grateful. No. Like, the whole thing about it didn't even phase it. Like, the Clarks didn't even get anything. Things like that. Her descriptive ability, just in something so mundane as washing some shirts. I love that about this letter. I love the whole story about little Lewis. We know he's there also at the house singing happy birthday. I mean, he's 5 at this point, so this little 5-year-old singing happy birthday to this 90-year-old woman with like this little piece of cake and then bringing over, a meal that they've planned to just include additional people in. It's really wonderful. It's really, really lovely.
It really is. It speaks just so highly of their character and her character. And I can tell, like, from seeing these letters and reading them all the time and going through them like we do, she is typing fast and furiously because her sentences are so long today.
Yeah.
Have you noticed?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you read it, but it's like she is definitely in a mood where she's like, and I gotta get it out, and it's like flowing. It's flowing. This letter is definitely, out of the letters we've read, this one has a definite flow.
Yeah.
I could see, like, this probably was the perfect letter for you to pick up first.
Yeah, it's just why I was like, I gotta get some ice cream and tell this, and it's gonna continue into that next one. She calls it the conquest, though, and then that moral conscience comes in. She's like, Lew, we're not gonna be those people where we're just like, let's make friends, and then take the furniture, try to flip it. She's like, but I wouldn't be able to flip it. She's like, I love this furniture.
She loves it so much. She has an appreciation for this as art. She really does, and she knows what she's talking about. And I can see, I better. And I mean, I already know some of the pieces that you have that used to be hers, and I bet you she would love that. It's kind of funny because Tom, who played Loki, Tom
Hiddleston, yeah.
Hiddleston? Okay. Yeah. Tom Hiddleston played Loki. And when he was reading the script for like the first movie or something, he goes, I had to set it down and go make a cup of tea and come back. And that just reminds me of the way that you're like, I just had to go get some ice cream.
Yeah. Yeah, some of it, some of these letters just hit us really well. There's I love, like, she's having a morality conflict in the middle of this. At the beginning. Not going into the next part. Just wait. More morality.
There's more.
There's more coming. But I also, like, really early in the letter, and it's easy to miss following after listening to the whole section about the old woman and her brother. We have this whole part where she's like, hey, Lew, you have to do some of the chores around the house. Like, enough's enough. And he's like, all right. Like, he's got his larger goal. He wants to go antiquing. The magazines are those antiques magazines, like, spread all over the floor. They're studying every night. TV's on in the background. We're going to find out what's playing later in this episode today.
Oh yeah, and ashtrays. Like, he's filling up ashtrays. He was a smoker. We don't really talk about this that much. But right here's where it's good, because she's like, hey, this is what needs to happen. And he was like, all right. So that was good. They have a great marriage. It's very lovely. Yep. And it's lovely to see that kind of stuff. But yes, I know that she's kind of struggling with this morality thing. Like, but she's just not that kind of person.
She's not. Yeah.
She's not that kind of person where you're like, there are people who are like, yes, I will help you out, of course, but I need something in return. And you can sense that the way that they are, and she is not taking advantage. She is really actually, she might get some things out of this, like maybe, but I know that even if she didn't, it wouldn't matter to her.
Yeah, she's not going to cross that line.
No.
That being said, in this letter, she said our first conquest, which would imply that there's a second. The second conquest is a lady in West Philadelphia who takes things on consignment to sell for other people. She takes anything, modern, old, and just anything that people bring in to sell. We found she had some weird ideas on what is good and what isn't, and I don't feel so bad about taking advantage over her, for if she knows no better, she isn't the kind of person who should be in business, and besides, if we don't take her over, somebody else will, and they probably could do it on a bigger scale than we can, so I justify my actions by saying we'll get them before the antique dealers stumble onto her and hoard more than we do. For instance, we got 2 signed whiskey jugs from her for 50 and 25 cents respectively, a Seth Thomas clock in perfect condition, undated as yet, for $5, a small carnival glass lacework dish for 50 cents, and several smaller items. We came home and looked up some of the things she had, and a day or 2 later, Lord forgive us, we went back for the other half of the load and got 2 cellarettes, large glass goblets on a stemmed foot, to hold celery at a formal dinner, for $1 apiece. She took quite a shine to us, being young and handsome, as Lew says, and so told us about a deal she was in on. A Presbyterian minister apparently got into some kind of an argument with the church board and just walked out and left things for her to sell. Family pictures were still there, a high school diploma, a box of clothes left in the bathroom. She sold off the furniture at a ridiculously low price, and there were a few things left that she took us over to see. It was worth going just to see the manse with its elaborately tiled fireplaces and carved stairways, marble window sills, and it was something like walking into a medieval castle. We sorted through and brought all the child's books we could carry for Lewis. I picked up a big box of stationery, mostly envelopes, a small file cabinet that I've been wishing and wishing I had, and another little piece of wood that I think might be the pigeonhole arrangement from an old desk. This all we got for free. She then told us of a lady next door to her whose husband had died and she never left the house for anything. She occasionally took her a dinner or soup or something of the like. One day the little old lady walked into Mrs. Sweeney's house and from all appearances lost her mind. She offered her jewels if she would keep her and not make her go back to her own house. For some reason or other she called the woman's brother, who came and got her and hasn't been back for 4 years. They gave her the key to rent out the upstairs apartments and look after things in the house, and so she took us on the dollar tour through the museum, and believe me, that is just what it is. The furniture is Victorian, and not too good Victorian, but there are some priceless bric-a-brac articles setting around, and both Lew and I were careful not to stand too close to anything lest we drool on it and permanently damage something. She said she will keep us in mind, for she expects the brother to write and tell her to dispose of all the things in the first floor, and then either put the house up for sale. She could spin some tale about who she is related to, and the fact that they have so much money. But I was gawking so that her voice didn't register, and I don't know now what kin she is to whom. Boy, is that place a gold mine, and wouldn't we love to get in there? I could scarcely keep my hands from opening dresser drawers and going through all of it. Believe me, we intend to cultivate Mrs. Sweeney, and when the time comes that the key is turned over to her, I aim to be right on top.
Wow. It's just very odd. Maybe this is something that happens today, but she was a neighbor to some old lady, and then the old lady came over and was like, obviously kind of had some mental breakdown or something, which is so sad. But then the brother's like, here's the key. Can you please just take care of the house for me? Thanks. Bye.
Yeah, peace out.
And she's like, okay. Miss Sweeney seems kind of like one of those odd birds.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Have you ever seen Sweeney Todd?
Yes.
Yeah. Because her name's Mrs. Sweeney, I can't get the image out of my mind of Mrs. Lovett with like the wild hair just surrounded, and it's already a Victorian story, so she's like surrounded by all these Victorian things. You know, Mrs. Lovett, total villain. There's major issues with her storyline, but that imagery of, I think it was Helena Bonham Carter who played her in the film, and Angela Lansbury.
Yeah, so that's how you picture Mrs. Sweeney.
Yeah, or like somewhere between The Cross and the original. I know Angela Lansbury famously played her on Broadway, but that's how I picture Mrs. Sweeney, and my dad remembers Mrs. Sweeney, so like I love everything about this. And then the first part with the Presbyterian minister who just like abandons all this. It's like Mrs. Sweeney just happens to be in the right place at the right time, which is really fascinating. She's not that great with judging the value. I don't see Mrs. Sweeney sitting up all night with the cigarette like with Lou and like looking through Antiques magazine. She's not doing that. But she has a nose for like being in the right place. She's just surrounded by the right individuals. She's probably, I would assume, in Philadelphia that she's known these families for a long time, or she's part of like a gossip group, which is just like, hey, did you hear about the Presbyterian minister who like walked out of the board? Like he left all his stuff behind. And I could imagine Mrs. Sweeney's the type to be like, oh my gosh, like this is an opportunity. And now she's making friends with Lou and Sweetie being like, hey, come check this stuff out over here. She doesn't care about, like, we know why Sweetie's taking stationery and envelopes. Like, you know, I would be giving her carbons. So
and the little kid books too. And that's awesome. And it just, there's people sometimes like that you'll come across in life and they're just like, they are lucky. They're just fortunate people. They're just, like you said, they're in the right place at the right time. And if Mrs. Sweeney doesn't have it all up here, maybe she's a little like, eclectic, maybe just a little odd. She at least has that lucky streak where she's able to like just, just fall into these situations. But it seems like Sweetie is kind of in that too, but she's making her own luck. Sweetie's making her own luck.
There's a difference between the two, but I love that like Sweetie recognizes that. And then she uses the phrase, I'm going to cultivate Mrs. Sweeney. I've never heard of anybody cultivating another person before, but if we understand anybody to do this well, it's Sweetie. She's like, I'm going to be right on top when that goes through. She's like, I've got the connections. We've got this moving. So like that antique world. And she mentioned in the earlier part, I think Mrs. Fryer, who she apologized to about the appearance at the auctions. She's getting to know the people in the business. Yes. And they're getting the calls. She doesn't have a phone yet, but she's still getting the messages. It's amazing how much they're able to do with no phone, right? Everything. Yeah. It's just the papers and all of that. It's an intense level and they're just going wild. And I love that she gives all the stories behind the antiques. She doesn't do it all the time, but like just to have the backstory about the older woman who lost the husband and then got into Mrs. Sweeney or the Presbyterian minister, having that story, she values the story of the item and then the word of the day. And by the way, if you want to test your friends, people, I didn't know what a cellarette was.
I had to look it up too. I looked it up too. And I was like, oh, it's like a box that you keep your wine in. It's a cellarette. It's like a cellar, but no, it's like a little baby one.
Well, no, right? This is different. This is different because she describes it. It's the celery holder.
No. The cellarette. Did you look? Did you look it up?
I thought it was the celery holder.
No, the cellarette. Hold on. I looked it up. This is fun.
That's bothering me. This whole time I thought it's been the celery holder.
No, the celery holder is a glass.
Okay.
The glass is that, and I was like, why do you need to hold celery? Like,
yeah, there is a cellarette. Oh, it is like a box.
A cellarette is a small furniture cabinet available in various sizes used to store bottles of alcoholic beverages such as wine or whiskey.
Huh.
Yeah.
This whole time I thought it was the celery holder because it sounds like celery.
Well, okay. And I get that, and that's why I kind of wanted, because I was like, why did I wanted to see what a glass was that held celery, but no, this was like
getting that wrong the whole time.
Instead of having a wine cellar.
Yeah. That's
what it was.
That's Victorian. Well, I kind of want one of those now. But I also want a celery holder.
I know. Let's look up celery holder goblets.
Yeah. Oh, they're pretty. They're just like large goblets. Holder. Okay. Well, people like buffalo wings. And they have their celery all the time. Next time you're having a fancy party, make sure you have your 1800 celery holders holding your celery for your buffalo wings.
If somebody like had a glass, and I was like, what's
Here's
that?
Your celery.
Like I'm looking at them, like it's a celery vase.
Yeah, it's a celery vase.
They're called celery vases.
Wow, I had that wrong the whole time. Okay.
Oh, like here's a picture of. Here's a couple pictures of the glasses with celery in them. They would leave the little leaves on.
Oh, because it's pretty. Yeah.
And then you probably put a little bit of water in the glass to keep them nice and fresh.
Yep. Yeah, that does make sense because the water.
So
anyway,
I knew something that you didn't know.
You caught me on that one. I thought the whole time
That's
because I thought they
crazy.
sounded the same, and I was just like, "Oh, she's defining it." I'm like, "That's a cool name." Well,
The
we
way
all
that
learned
she
together.
writes it, yes, it's very easy to like assume that that's
Mhm.
what it means.
Yep.
But I also, and like I said before, she's like fast and furious with this one. But anyway, but that was all the cool stuff about the antiques
Right. Yep.
and the conquest. And I love how it's like she's like conquest. But now she's going to be turning on to family.
I was surely sorry to hear of Aunt Nellie's death. Papa wrote of driving through the rain to get there, and I know that must have been very trying for him, the funeral and all that discounted. I shall have to wait to hear from him to get any details of the trip. I've been wondering if we might be able to get some of Grandpa Demaree's things and perhaps Aunt Nellie's to preserve for future generations. We've agreed not to sell anything belonging to either of our families, and right now, let me say I'd give my eye teeth to own that snuff box mentioned in the Demarest book. I wish that, Papa, you would send me that book and the supplements for a while. I'd like to have it for a while, and I'd like to show it to the little 90-year-old woman in Doylestown. Now, to try and bring you up to date and answer a few questions and letters we've received. I wrote to the folks, but not to the rest of you, that our Elizabeth had many recurring hemorrhages and finally wound up in the hospital for another week getting at least 5 and possibly 6 transfusions. Poor grandmother, on top of worrying herself sick about Dit, had the babies to take care of, washing and ironing, cooking and cleaning to do, and so I had to declare a national holiday and go down and help her out of a hole several times. I had to let my work go naturally, one more reason for getting behind. But I did help her out. I am sure the baby hadn't been properly bathed for days, and undertook to do that, along with thoroughly cleaning the house and doing laundry enough to sink a fair-sized battleship. She appreciated it, though, and I could see she was at the end of her rope a time or two until we bailed her out. Elizabeth seems to be getting along okay now, and as I understand it, she and Bob are planning a night out on Saturday. The baby is Marguerite Elizabeth, and seems to be a good-natured and alert little girl. She resembled both Bob and Bobby very much, and they in turn are copies of Mrs. Brown, whom neither Elizabeth nor G-Mom are too fond, and they seem to resent it somehow. I hope you do get the television in good working order on Frank's visit there. Ours has been doing nicely, and we are careful not to mention any defects above a whisper, lest it kink out on us with another $5 call to repair it. We watch it as avidly as we did when it was first new, and perhaps even more so since our TV telecasts start now at 8 a.m. and continue on until 1 or 2 o'clock. I am sorry they do not show the UN in action much, really not at all since Malik's one-man show. I did not put out any fall plants this year. We've devoted too much time to hunting for odds and ends. I do feel, though, that I did a good deed for my neighbors, the florists. I found out by listening in on their conversation, and found that they had lost almost a whole bed of bronze chrysanthemums because they could not get them picked, sorted, and into the wholesale florists in time. I just casually asked, "Do you want me to come over and help you pick them?" And to my surprise, Mr. Riesselmann, who is a very reserved, almost block-headed Dutchman, said, "Yes, we do." I went and cut like mad for several days, another reason for being behind in my work. She and I took the baby out into the fields in her coach, and we turned Lewis out to run as we worked. She and I cut the little pom-poms, and Mr. R cut the big shaggy ones, and Kay, the boy, sorted, tied, and wrapped, ready for delivery in the mornings to the wholesaler. I never saw so many flowers in one place before, and I cut until my hand was blistered through a glove, and my arms ached from carrying and stacking, and without pay. Money, that is. But our austere Mr. R came up to me and put his hand on my shoulder and said, "If I had $500, I'd give it to you." I was touched, but rather than have him feel so obligated to me, and I was somewhat surprised by his display of appreciation, I said, "If you had $500, I'd take it." And Mrs. Riesselmann said, "See, Carl? You can't offer her a thing. She'll take anything you offer her." I surely do appreciate her, though, for I'd be lost without any neighbor at all. Well, I forgot to say they only had $70 left, and they have to have $3,000 yet to complete this one greenhouse before winter weather, building a boiler room, a 45-foot smokestack, and all the rest of the things necessary, and I couldn't see them losing money they needed so desperately because they didn't have the help and couldn't afford to hire any. They got $400 from the wholesaler for the ones they picked the week before I chipped in to help them. They got $1,000 for the flowers the week I helped, and she thanked me profusely.
That is so sweet.
Yeah.
Having lovely neighbors, you just do what you can.
Yep.
Like Mrs. Riesselmann has been there for her, and that, she's given her use of the phone. And I know they kind of had a rocky start.
Right.
But see, this is the kind of person Sweetie is.
Yep.
She's like, I'm going to go over there and I'm going to help you pick your flowers. And
to blisters on her hands. And we know if 1 week it went from $400 value to $1,000, and that's more than double the amount of work that she put in. She just threw her whole body, soul, spirit into doing this for the neighbor. She came through for Mrs. Riesselmann. My dad remembers the Riesselmanns. I mean, and this is why, because they built that relationship. You know, we don't know what's going on with that other neighbor that's living in the twin house because they don't seem to want to catch up and talk. But I mentioned in some earlier episodes, there's a lot going on with the greenhouse, with the florist next door. There's going to be more coming in this season about what's going on with the greenhouse and the florist next door. But yeah, this whole story is just so wonderful. And we get a little character from Carl Riesselmann. We really haven't heard from him, but he's just kind of this very direct individual. He's getting his work done. He just says things as they are. And we get the wit and humor of Mrs. Riesselmann. They're the two great friends. So I love it.
And it's kind of, we get a little more insight into because he worked out of the house. He worked somewhere. We know that he worked somewhere else.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is just a side thing that they're doing. But we get a little more insight into like what their life is like. They're florists. They grow flowers, and it's just a shame that they didn't have the help to get the flowers, because they would have made so much money, but they were unable to do it. It's so crazy to think about
the cost of it. She's like, they have $70 and they're trying to pay off this $3,000 expense just to get their industry going, just to be entrepreneurs in their industry. I do love that the baby's in the carriage, and like Lewis is like just running around. I would have put him to work. Sorry, Lewis. I'd be like, yo, they're flowers. Like, let's go. He's running around the yard.
I've tried to put my 5-year-old little boy, well, when he was 5, and they'll do things for a little bit, but then they're like, oh, a bug, bye. Yeah. Or like, oh, squirrel, it's so they just, so for him to like get that exercise though, and her too, like, see what I mean? Like, this is exercise. This is like, physical labor. So it's good for you. But I think that's just so sweet. She's just like, she's worried about being a person who's like taking advantage of other people, but she's just not. Right. She's not that kind of person.
It's the counterbalance to the early part where she's like, her conscience is clear. That's evident from this section. Yeah, it's a great point to bring up. The other part here in this section is the information about Aunt Nellie. We get to hear about Chester's family. So just to update some more information about Chester's family and who these individuals are, this is on the Demaree side, of course. Aunt Nellie, Chester's sister Nellie, lived in Indiana. From all intents and purposes, it seems it was a farmer family. And I found the obituary for this. At this time period, Chester had 3 brothers and 2 sisters. His other sister, Sarah, is still alive at this point. But Nellie has passed away. And then he has his other brothers, and they were Cyril and Orrin. So we've heard about Uncle Cyril. We've now heard about Uncle Orrin a little bit. He did have another brother, Merrill, a bit like Cyril and Merrill always stay together, but Merrill's passed away at this point. So he's lost 2 siblings at this point in the story. Still some more with him, but he clearly had to take a trip out to Indiana to get to this funeral and attend to that. So just to put that out there so people understand that on the family tree of where Chester's family is, and this, of course, being her aunt that's passed. So, but outside of that, that's the main portion of this section of the letters. We get the update about Chester's family, and then we get this amazing story about the Riesselmanns. But Jamie, we still do have one more part. It's amazing to me. She's like, you know why she's also writing quickly, even though this is on the level of like an epic letter. Yeah. At the beginning, she says, I'm trying to get this done before the mailman gets here. So she's racing against the clock. She's like, that mailman's on his way. And she's like, oh, but I still got to write this thing and about the Riesselmanns and all this other stuff. Well, She still has to write more. So here's the last part she's trying to rush to get on the paper before the mailman arrives. I'm glad you like the new car, Papa. You never did say whether you turned the Chevy in on the new Ford or not. I look for a dark blue Ford and think you should well be proud of it. And I say to myself, there goes Papa and Mama. I surely do wish you could take the time to drive out here and see our treasures, and the country, and the house, and all. Louis talked so much about you and Mama, and the other day went into a long and detailed account of the time the chicken got away and ran across the road to the deserted house, and Grandpa said, I'll not fool around with that chicken, and he went into the house and got his gun and shot that chicken in the head. Some day I'll shoot like that when I get big. The things he remembers surprises me, and though this one isn't so nice, it shows how well he does remember. Remember, Mama, when you were out in the garden, and for some reason he delayed so long in going to the bathroom, and then couldn't make it? He brought that up and told me all about it too, and I'm sure he wasn't any more than 2 then. Was he? All right. I actually want to pause here because there's a lot happening. First of all, I think we've answered the age-old question of why did the chicken cross the road?
I was like, really, sir? Because my chickens cross the road all the time, and of course it's a hilarious joke. Why did the chicken cross the road? Because the neighbors have a bird feeder. But that's why our chickens cross the road. But I'm like, he just killed the chicken. I was like, a warning to all the other chickens, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Guess. Into an here goes. Oh. So, but the funny thing, of course, is that Louis is using this as like,
wasn't that great, Mom? I mean, like,
yeah. Remember when Grandpa Demaree went and followed that chicken? What? So, okay. Dr. Demaree, you are being a bad influence on your grandson, sir. So, what are you doing? Who knows what happened? Look, I don't put anything past Dr. Demaree at this point. After Pesumani, you know, ever since episode 23, all bets are off. And if you missed that one, that might help inform how we arrive at this point here. So, oh my goodness, yeah. And then of course little Louis is there to witness it, and then he brings up the second thing, which I'm going to talk to my dad. My dad actually remembers this whole part about when he couldn't make it to the bathroom, and he jokes about this. I'm going to see if we can film a short video to put up on the channel about this. If we do, I will tell our audio listeners if it's up there in a subsequent episode, because he remembers this story, and for whatever reason he has a gleeful delight in recounting this thing from when he was 2, and I don't want to wreck it for him, but let's just say he didn't make it. So
I definitely would love to hear from the source that story. So you try to make that happen, Allison.
Yeah. Did you get the cards I mailed you? Cards for various occasions to send to your secret pal? I haven't had any hay fever, but we are having rounds of colds and with little or no sulfa to fight it with. Both Louis and I have been pretty hard hit, but we took the sulfa we had and then went over to the dispensary to get more. They act as though sulfa were the chief secret weapon, or else one of the dangers of the world, for they give it out with many an admonition and warning, and then just a very few doses, and then treat me like I had not enough sense to use it anyway. So would you send us some at your earliest convenience? Jean, I received and appreciated your long letter about the trip north and all the fishing you did, and wished I could have gone along to Kibitz. My enthusiasm for the actual fishing cannot compare with yours, but I could have called out a warning with gestures when the bobber went under. I shall not go into answering it very thoroughly right now, as time is limited, but shall try to do so at some later date. We enjoy Glenn's letters, and I shall try to get one written to him soon too. I have a travelogue from Aunt Rosanna that I should have mailed you long before, but put it away so carefully. I couldn't find it until I cleaned up a little, so shall send it today. You are to read it and then pass it on to Sister. I was surprised to find they had gone all the way to New York and not come to see me. But I guess I shouldn't feel too badly, as they had other people with them. She didn't mention Olive, and I'd like to hear the latest word on her. Somebody write me about her, will you? Mama wants the travelogue back, Sister, so you see that she gets it for me, will you? I'm sorry to hear Uncle Clark isn't very well. I enjoyed hearing about the trip to Pontiac and meeting Uncle Cyril there. I was glad to get Papa's letter about Susie, and I'm glad she is getting along all right. I forgot to tell Mama that when they sent the box for Lewis's birthday gifts, that we had to tell him it was more calf meat, and hid the things until his birthday. But he did see the stocking filled with nut meats and insisted that at least the sock was for him. I emptied the nuts into a jar and put them into the icebox. He said he wanted the sock washed, and so I did. And he has put it in one of his dresser drawers and says, G. Maud Demaree sent it with the calf meat, and he is going to keep it. And he is. Lewis says he isn't too keen on going to school next year. He catches on to things very rapidly and can copy part of the alphabet, but his left-handedness gives him difficulty on several of the letters. I notice he often makes them upside down, but assume he will soon get it down without too much trouble. He makes a great hit with the little lady in Doylestown because he isn't too kiddish, and does converse quite well. He insisted he wanted a cowboy gun and holster like he sees in TV, and so we got one for him, and he is no longer watching TV, but partakes in the action and drama of the westerns. Gene, the Gene Autry shirt you sent for his birthday delighted him beyond words. It is his real cowboy shirt, and he insists he is Hopalong Cassidy, even though the shirt says Gene Autry, and then when he found the mask, he immediately abandoned Hopalong in favor of the Masked Rider, and by Halloween, the mask will be no longer, for it is receiving some strenuous workouts. The sleeves are a trifle too long, and he must wear them turned back, but no one dares mention such a thing. That is the way it is meant to be. The cap gun is something of a backache, and I am jumping like mad when he shoots it off unexpectedly. We've agreed that they shoot only outside, and I'm regaining some of my old serenity. I wonder if you knew how he would light into the nuts and candy you sent along. I want to say that I finally put the lid on the boxes, squeezed his hand to do it, and just had to put them away, or they'd have been gone at the first sitting. The shirt and pants you sent him fit just fine. That is the heck of it. They fit him perfectly right now, and I wonder if you'd feel very bad if I'd return them to you for a bigger size. With the 3 pair I made out of the old suit, you remember he wore them when Papa was sick at your house, and by letting down the hems and moving buttons a little, he can wear them again this year. He has the good blue corduroys you sent him a year or so ago, and the green corduroy set that Marguerite and Joe got for him, and the good Sunday suit that G-Mom got him when he said his children's day piece. And so he can get along nicely this year with that many pairs of pants, and these you bought him would be worth a good 3 times as much if they were big enough that I could save them until he starts to school. I shall not send them back until I hear from you that it is all right, but I'd surely be grateful now and next year both, if you could get them at least an 8, for these fit him just fine right now, and there wouldn't be much to let out on them for next year. I got quite a kick out of Emma's note and sister's letter asking me not to write to her as she had a broken arm and couldn't write. Too bad she broke her arm, don't you think? It is nearly time for the mailman. I think I'd better try to catch him, and to do so I'll have to stop right now. My best wishes to all of you. Write, why don't you? I've got to start on my house cleaning and try to get some of these things put away, so may not get much writing done for a while. Jean, I'll write to Glenn soon if I can, but give him my greetings. Florence, how are things with you? Frank writes of your visit home and about your kids. Sister, I know you were about ready to scold me for not writing when I got your polite postal card. That always jogs me that I must get the typewriter loosened up. But you could write a little oftener, too. Hope to hear about the trip to Indiana, and Papa, do you think of anything that Grandpa had that would still be at Aunt Mary's and Uncle Cyril's that we might bargain for? More later. Love to all of you. And write. Sweetie.
Oh, goodness.
Mm-hmm.
This was definitely one of her longer letters.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But it definitely had that flow. And I could see here where she's like, oh, it's nearly time for the mailman.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then I can picture her like maybe going out, because we know that she's got that window up in the top of the house where the second floor is. Maybe she peeked out and didn't see him. So she's like, okay, I'll just get Jean, can you do this? Sister, can you do that? Like, and just like, it's like you can kind of imagine that this is like what she was doing.
And these are carbons, right? So she's splitting up the carbons. She's got to prepare all the envelopes. So she's got that little extra time. checking all of it, and then sending it all off. Yeah, oh man, everything about this letter, it's one of the inspirations for the podcast is this letter, because we just see so much of who she is and who the families, and this fills in the scene as well. We were talking about how they have the antiques on the floors at night. He's got the ashtray, he's smoking. Now we've got Lewis running around in the genealogy shirt, watching the cowboy western, setting off the cap gun, and she's like jumping all the time. And I just imagine that's the scene at nighttime. This is like that little picture at daily life. It's really just amazing to see it all.
She does write again.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, so that was dated October 13th. And we know she's very busy with her antiques and all her new friends. Conquests.
Her conquest, the people she's cultivating. Oh, and we do have to note one more thing about this letter before we leave it. Our standard disclaimer. I love that the pharmacist is telling her, you shouldn't just be doling out sulfa all the time. Special disclaimer. The medicines and other medical treatments noted in these historical letters from the 1950s are specific to Sweetie's story and might not be recommended today, or are even more regulated than they were so many years ago. As such, none of the medical information contained within these letters is to be construed as medical advice. Talk to your doctor. Thank you for your attention to this message. Now, back to the show.
So that was the October 13th letter. And then now we know that she wasn't too busy and she was able to write again on October 22nd.
County Line Road, Hatboro, Pennsylvania, October 22nd, 1950. Dear Mama, Papa, Jean, Sisters, Franks, and Florence. Here it is Sunday morning, and everybody but us heathens have gone to Sunday school. I had every intention of going this morning and got the breakfast dishes done and beds made in time, but Lewis decided he just was not going to go, and so since I've a headache anyway, I didn't force the issue further. His teacher, whom he so loved, has been promoted with the older bunch of kids to the next department, and he doesn't care one way or the other for the new teacher, and so it is a battle to persuade him he should go. I guess if I had stayed with it long enough, he might have given in, but I didn't feel much like going, and the weather is strictly ick this morning, and so you shall reap the benefits in this letter. You know, as far as receiving letters is concerned, I'm far better off if I don't write to anyone. If I send letters in a steady stream, I don't hear from anyone, but if I grow lax and let the letters wait for a week or two, I at least get a card saying what is the matter. My mailbox is empty. We have cut down somewhat on our sail hunting the past few days on account of the colder weather, and taking Lewis to stand around and get cold too, there are fewer sails and less to choose from. We've picked up several new items, though, and I want to tell you about one of them. I believe I wrote the folks about it and described it fairly well, but now we have some pictures of it that I'm going to send to Papa, and he in turn can send them on to the kids, or whomsoever might be interested. It is a small brass box with engraving and scripture in Old Dutch. We took it over to the neighbor and asked him to read it to us, and he found it quite difficult, for it is the older Dutch script, with older spelling than he has used, and besides that, it was written in rhyme, and that made it very difficult to transpose the sentences, and keep that meter and rhyme. There are verses of scripture on the box that don't coincide with our Bible exactly, but we could pick out illustrations that might go along with our scripture. We don't know what it was used for, but I'd guess some sort of a money box, as on the back is this idea. I can't give it to you exactly as it is written, but the gist of it is this. Although you may have the strength of Solomon and the wisdom of... No, I got it backwards. Although you may have the wisdom of Solomon and the strength of Samson, if you have no money, you will not be held in esteem, or will not be honored. But on the front is the contradiction. What if you have money and riches? When you die, it remains behind and cannot be taken with you. We got it at the local auction for 50 cents, and when we got home to examine it under a magnifying glass, we found 2 names scratched inside the lid, and the date, Anno 1764. It is scarcely visible to your eye without the magnifying glass, but there can be no doubt as to the date. I'm sending the pictures taken at the photo lab at the base, and Papa can pass them along as he sees fit. We've several items acquired recently. A set of 4 plank-bottom Dutch chairs with the original finish and Dutch stenciling. We paid almost too much for them, and Lew is somewhat worried for fear he'll not make too much profit on them. But I'm not. We know a girl very slightly who has a set of them like it, and I think she only has 5 of them. She might want to buy one, and we've already had an offer to buy the whole set of 4, but that would be for no more than we paid for them. I like them and would love to keep them, but Lew says if I had my way, we'd keep everything we buy, and then there goes the investment and the profit and the incentive. He preaches pyramiding everything, and I guess he has the right idea, but there is a certain charm about these old things that I find hard to resist.
Well, Allison, I think that you might know what I want to ask you.
Okay.
Do you have that box?
I've never seen that box. So I have to talk to my dad. It feels like an item they would hang on to, especially if it's small and if it's dated 1764. And if I've seen it, I haven't recognized it for what it is. So I will be asking my father about that box. I just love the idea of a money box that on one side says you need to have money to basically make it in the world, and on the other side says, but you can't take it with you. Something about that. It's kind of perfect.
You kind of have to have that balance between having it to use and then also using it before you die, I guess.
Right?
But yeah, it's really interesting. And it's cool that Mr. Rieselmann, they took it over there like, hey, can you please read this? And he's like, this is old. I can't. This is hard to transpose. 1764.
Yeah. They know they have something when they see the date. Yeah.
They can't. I can't. Well, we'll see. We'll see. It happens way... how do I want to put this? I should never expect that we can like look back and like see the items, but it's happened so many times.
Yep.
Like the painting of the Grand Canyon is hanging up in your dining room right now.
Yep.
So, and I know there's other items too.
There's others. Yeah, we haven't gotten to tons of items that are there, but when we do get to see them, it's quite wonderful. Some of the photos of the items have survived. I'm also going through the massive photo collection. And sometimes until I get to a letter, I have no idea. I'm like, why is there a picture of a box? Like there have been items like this. And then I'll be like, oh, this is that actual photo that was sent out. Now this was a photo sent out, but that brings up another thing. She's using the resources available. Oh, look, like it's a Dutch item. I'm going to go talk to Mr. Riesselmann. He's taking a photo at the base. You've got Lew being like, I'm going to take my camera to the photo lab at the base, get this developed so we can send this picture. So now there's that going on. All of these voluntary contributions for these other places, sort of going into them trying to figure out what it is that they have here. But it happens all the time. There's going to be a very large item that's going to come up in a few episodes here that we're going to talk about that I do have. So I won't talk about what it is, but we're going to get to see and hear that item. And it's really a brilliant piece from the collection. So yeah, sometimes we do. I'm waiting with everybody else to see what my dad can say about this item if they hung on to it. I get the suspicion that they did, or they would have sold it for pretty high value with the date that was on it. In sheer desperation, I got my hair cut and went down to Elizabeth's and asked her to give me a home permanent. I didn't have it cut quite so short and like it better, but she doesn't roll as tightly as we do, and hence it is looser. More natural looking, and I like it now, but doubt if it will last quite as long as usual. She is coming along all right now, but she did have a tough time there for a while. The baby is looking much better, I think, though she does have some colic and doesn't sleep as well as she might. They call her Little Marguerite, but there isn't a trace of anything but just brown that I can see. She is very pleasant, and at 2 months goes and laughs when she is spoken to. I got the housework done real early yesterday. We got up, and Lew went to the base at 6:15, as he was on that Millville detail, and so in an ambitious moment got out the storm windows and put them up. What a job that was! I took the windows off and cleaned the outside of the house windows, inside and out of the storm windows, and put them in, cleaned the screens and put them away, and I'm stiff and sore this morning from being up and down the ladder and rubbing and reaching. Haven't started my fall house cleaning, but must do so, as the woodwork and walls need attention badly, and I must do it while there is still some good weather. But boy, do I dread it. Tomorrow is Lew's day off, and we are planning on going downtown, I think. I sort of razzed him, saying I'd go with him to all the sales and junkers, and he never goes anywhere with me, and that I'd like to go downtown. We haven't been there except to see about the typewriter, and that was just in and out without any shopping or window shopping at all. Who am I kidding? Window shopping is about all I ever do. I go in with the idea of buying this or that, get in and look it over, see the price, gasp, and walk out. To my surprise, he announced he was taking me into the city on Monday, his day off. I was quite surprised and pleased, until I looked in the paper and saw an auction advertised for Monday. I can't win. I believe we'll take a run up to Doylestown to see our old friends, the 90-year-old woman and her brother. We're eating our hearts out about the settle bench, and Lew wants to try bartering for it again. I'd sure be sick if somebody else got it out from under our noses, and if anyone saw it, they'd sure try to do that very thing. That I'm not sure I could sell. I guess the time is rolling around again to the time when we must discuss the problem of Christmas presents for all the family. I hope to hear that you've talked it over again and will not send gifts for the entire family. I'd love to do it, if only we could afford to, but we are not financially able to do it, and I doubt if Florence and the rest of you are either. Somebody write to me about this, won't you? This summer and fall have gone so quickly, I hate to think of winter setting in again, though our winters are milder than yours are. I worry about Papa being in Iowa during the bitter weather, and those babies aren't considerate enough to come at a decent hour of the day either. Do hope you'll take good care of yourselves. With a new Ford, you might travel south for the worst time. Guess I'd better stop now and get the paper and lunch started before Lew gets here for lunch and finds none ready. Right, and tell me the news. I got Papa's card saying the medicine was on its way, but so far hasn't arrived. We'll let you know as soon as it does. Thanks for sending it. And now may I ask for some Dexedrine? This last bottle has lasted me almost 10 months, so you know I don't take much, but I'm going to try to lose some weight and need it for that, so please send it soon, will you? I've gained a lot of weight, and Lew still stays so thin that we look something like a before and after ad. Right. Love to you all. Sweetie.
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. I have to say I definitely was right there with her when she's like, the woodwork and the walls need attention so badly, and I need to do my fall cleaning.
Yeah.
I was like, same.
Yep.
I mean, she's very personable. It just relates so much to some of the things that she says and the way that she writes things. But let's talk about, okay, so we know that Jean will typically do her hair for her.
Yeah.
And so she doesn't like the way Elizabeth does it, but she's like, I don't have any other choice.
Mm-hmm. And in that same scene, we got an update about Elizabeth we didn't talk about earlier. Elizabeth's really going through it. She'd been in the hospital for about a week. She came out for about a week or two at least. She was having this hemorrhaging. She's back in the hospital from the previous letter for more transfusions. And there's the new baby there, little Marguerite, this is the first time in letters we actually see the words little Marguerite. They've been using it the entire time. For anybody that missed the content about that episode 83, little Marguerite. Talks about her being born. And she makes this comment that apparently Elizabeth and G-Mom are not fond of the fact that little Marguerite takes after the Brown side of the family. Because there's like this squabbling between the in-laws. So when she makes the comment, she's like, she seems more brown. That's because her husband's Bob Brown. So it's the husband side of the family. And it's just like, I don't really like that, but it's really funny. So,
I think too, sometimes when I hear about it, I'm like, you know what? I bet you she's really not that bad.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
She's probably not that bad. And they're just like, no, not you. Because she did offer to take, she was going to take the little Bobby.
Yeah.
When Elizabeth went to the hospital, had little Marguerite. And they were like, no. They said,
I think it's important, that we get to hear a little bit more about Mrs. Brown. We do have an upcoming episode before the end of season 2, entirely called Mrs. Brown. So we'll find out more information about her and that side of the family in that episode. So if people are wondering about Elizabeth's husband and the Brown side of the family, watch out for the episode Mrs. Brown if you're looking into that storyline, or if that storyline is fascinating to you.
And Lewis was like, oh, I'm going to take you downtown to an auction.
Oh, so yeah, and all of that. And then the last part here, the dexedrine. We've talked about Dexy before. It hasn't come up for a number of letters. She's not using it too much, but that was like a weight loss idea. That was a way that the women at the time were trying to manage their weight with medicine, and in this case, dexedrine, or Dexy as they're going to call it. Oh, and then the settle bench, by the way, if people are wondering, that's not a mistype. It's called a settle bench. These are those benches that are like maybe about 2 people wide, if you think sitting on a bench, all wood, the very high back, and sometimes it just has a chest as the base of it, or not, and it has arms. So that's what she's trying to get her hands on. That's the settle bench. People, if you want to look that up online, you'll see a lot of Victorian examples of this. And we have to remember, the old lady, she's 90. So she would have been born in like the 1800s. This is a Victorian piece. So, but if people are wondering what a settle bench is, this is still somewhat popular. These have come back into popularity in like the farmhouse kind of looks, which is when you have like the trunk and like usually the pegs for hanging coats, and it's like a little bench people can sit on in an entryway.
Yes. Oh my.
Yeah, it's those.
Yeah, these are gorgeous. Yeah, these are definitely like, here's some antique ones on Etsy.
Yep. Yeah.
18th century. So like you could see, I bet even if they looked a little bit like this, which I'm sure that it seems like the 90-year-old woman and her 81-year-old brother have a lot of like really nice pieces.
They do.
So I'm guessing it's probably really gorgeous. I hope they get it.
Outside of that, just one quick update to do, moving away from the letters and into the history of the Korean War going on at the same time. We're in October of 1950. There's one big thing to talk about here. In the Korean War, the UN Allied forces with the American troops have now crossed the 38th parallel. In the last episode, they'd retaken the city of Seoul, the capital of South Korea. So I just wanted to move up the timeline a little bit more here with what's going on with the troops. They have crossed the 38th parallel. They've also taken the North Korean capital at this point of Pyongyang. That happens on October 19th of 1950. So right in between the two letters we read today. Yeah, that's going on. In the background, we have to continuously remember there's a war happening this whole time. Despite all of this like everyday life and awesome stories that Sweetie's giving, that is actively happening. So at this time period, we do have that advance with the war abroad. So, but outside of that, everybody, we hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Love Sweetie podcast. It is an absolute privilege for me to share that letter from October 13th with everybody, one of the major letters that really inspired this podcast. I hope everyone's enjoyed it. And with that, the only thing is, should we tease? I think we need to tease the next episode, Jamie.
Just like a little tease. Just a little tease, because there is a Chester letter. And that, you know what? I don't think he even needs it. There's a Chester letter.
There's a Chester letter.
What that means.
Yep. Get ready for next week. Chester's back.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.